Hey guys, it's Emma. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about the book I read called Setting Limits in the Classroom. It's a third edition. It's by Robert McKenzie and Lisa Stanzoni. So first I want to talk about why I picked this book. So it's a third edition, so I knew it was going to be updated and expanded on versus the first and second edition. So it bolstered that it had the most up-to-date alternatives, stuff like that. It also covers a broad range of topics, so I decided that was a big plus. And then the number one reason I picked it is that it promised to apply to all grade levels. So I thought that'd be perfect for us since we have such a wide variety of future teachers from elementary to high school. And I found that this was actually true. Well, sometimes I'd be like, okay, that's probably for younger kids, or okay, that's definitely for older kids. But overall, I definitely think the whole book applies to all grades. So there were a few major topics that the book covered that I wanted to talk to you guys about. We had eliminating power struggles, setting limits that students understand, using logical consequences, and then what I kind of talked to you guys about in class today, the approaches that teachers use. And this is the approaches they use to teach and also to run their classroom. So the first major topic is eliminating power struggles. So this book provides multiple methods and examples of eliminating these power struggles. I, in my internship specifically, have dealt with this a lot, so this really helped me. So the first method they give is the check-in. So if you assign work or give directions to the class and you have one kid who's sitting there not getting to work or is talking to another person, an example of the check-in would be to ask, "What did I ask you to do?" Or "Were my directions clear?" And this is a very unaggressive way of basically calling them out and letting them know that you know that they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And most of the time, they'll get on task after this. So the next example of eliminating power struggles is the cutoff. So a lot of times, if you go to give a student directions or tell them they can't do something, they're going to try to argue, negotiate with you, sometimes lie right to your face. And the best way to deal with this is just to cut it off. So an example of cutting it off is if you tell a student to get off the computer and they say, "Oh, but I want 5 more minutes," you could say, "We're done talking about it," or "Discussion time is over, you need to return to your seat." Stuff like that. Those are examples of the cutoff. And then the third example they use is to always hold firm, no second chances. So the book says that when you allow multiple chances for a student to comply with your very clear directions, you're setting yourself up for them to test you even more because they know the first time they don't do something, nothing's going to happen. They're just going to get a warning. So second chances are a big no-no, especially from these authors. And then my biggest takeaway from the power struggle section is that you always have to follow through with your consequences. So you can say whatever you want, words will only do so much. Consequences are the second part of your message. Words are just words, but your actions show a lot more than what your words are going to do. So you need to always follow through with your consequences. The second major topic is setting firm limits. So I think we can all agree that if we're given an assignment or told to write a paper or something like that, we like clear expectations, and our students do as well. So limits in the classroom should be firm and clear so students understand what is expected of them. The goal is to reject unacceptable behavior, but not the student performing the behavior. So if you have Johnny throwing a paper ball, what you need to be doing is rejecting the fact that he's throwing a ball, not rejecting Johnny for throwing it, if that makes sense. So sometimes you can use these verbal messages to give firm limits. So if you see two kids pushing each other, you can say, "Stop pushing, please." This is very clear, but it's also firm. Or you could sit together quietly, or you can sit apart quietly. You make it sound like it doesn't matter to you, but they know what you mean. And it's very firm, very clear. And then there are action messages as well, where you can actually act out these clear messages. So if a student is on his phone and you see that, you can temporarily remove the privilege because he has it out. So you can take it, and this it sends the signal that this misbehavior will not be tolerated um, through your actions. So the fourth major topic is logical consequences. So the key to a logical consequence is just that. It should be logical, but it's also a consequence. So you need to know how, when, and where to use them. Logical consequences are your ticket to credibility in the classroom. If they know you're not going to do anything, they will capitalize on that. So, when a student knows that bad behavior will be met with immediate consequences, that's a big thing. It has to be immediate, and that they're going to be objectively fair, they'll be less likely to test teachers to see what they can get away with. On the right, you'll see a little graph, and I pulled this off, I think it was like page 100 and something. I don't really remember, but I thought it was really useful. So this is just an example of a few things that students are doing and then the logical consequence for it. So logical consequences, they need to be fair and they need to be immediate to be most effective. So hopefully you guys remembered to do the little quiz thing that I attached to my Blackboard post, and you guys have done it already. If you haven't, you should definitely just pause this real quick and go do it. It'll take like 2 seconds. But anyway, if you've already done it, good job. You need to total up the points you got for each section, and then figure out which section you had the highest total for. And then we're going to talk about each approach. So there are 4 methods or approaches that teachers use to teach and implement their rules. So the first method, is the permissive approach. So the permissive approach is very respectful, but it's not firm. So if you scored the most points in section 1, you use the permissive approach. So as you can see on your quiz and on this PowerPoint, examples of the permissive approach is allowing students to blurt out answers or speak without raising their hands, or giving warnings and second chances. As I talked about a few slides ago, giving second chances is deadly to classroom management. If you're giving second chances over and over and over again, you're using the permissive approach. And also, if you're pleading or begging for cooperation, it's like, guys, please, can we please get on task? Stuff like that, that's permissive. If you scored the most amount of points in section 2, you use the punitive approach. So the punitive approach is very firm, but is not always respectful towards the students. So you see this more with men than you do with women, but all people do it. So examples of the punitive approach is using sarcasm or demeaning language. Obviously, a playful little sarcasm is not going to be that big of a deal, but if you're using it repetitively over and over again, you're using the punitive approach. If you shame disrespectful students for how they feel, stuff like that. Taking away privileges in the spring for misbehavior in the fall. So if you know that Brandon is always clicking away on his phone and he gave you a lot of problems in the fall, then in spring, if he comes in, you say, you know what, I'm not even going to give you the chance to have your phone this semester, you're done. That's punitive approach. So the third approach is mixed approach. So this is neither firm nor respectful. It's very confusing for students. If you scored highest in section 3, you use the mixed approach. So the mixed approach can look like a lot of different things because it's a mixture. So if you're overlooking misbehavior because you're in a good mood, if it's a Friday and it's sunny outside and you see Johnny on his phone, you're like, you know what, it's a good day, I'm not even going to do anything about it. You're using mixed. If you allow some students to disrupt the class and then you punish others for doing the same thing, that is mixed, and it's very confusing for students. And then if you're tolerating disruption in the classroom until it becomes intolerable and you all of a sudden like snap and send some kid to the office, something like that, that's mixed approach. The mixed approach, it's good that you're not being disrespectful to your students, but it's also very confusing because they don't often know what is expected of them and they don't know where the line is that they're not supposed to cross. And in their minds, when you all of a sudden decide to enforce a consequence, it seems to them as if you're like snapping or something like that. And then the fourth approach is the democratic approach. So if you scored highest in section 4, you use the democratic approach. So this is very firm and respectful. So examples of this are separating students that talk during instruction. So if you're sitting there giving a lecture and these 2 students won't stop talking to each other, you can be like, you know what, Chanel, I need you to move up to the front, something like that. If students abuse privileges, you suspend those privileges temporarily. The big thing about democratic approach is you don't hold it against them for an extended period of time. It's just temporary. And then if someone's fooling around, not really finishing their work, you're going to force them to make up that incomplete assignment during recess time, smart block, free time, do it for homework, stuff like that. So that's the democratic approach. So if you didn't figure out already, according to the authors, the democratic approach is the best. It combines firmness and respect together. So with this approach, the teacher guides the learning process by providing clear messages about the classroom rules and expectations, and they support those rules with consequences. So like I said earlier, you need to back up your words with consequences, and the democratic approach does this. With this approach, the teacher is prepared to teach rules the easy way or the hard way. So if you got a real nice, easy class and it only takes 1 or 2 days to get them in line, they figure out what's what. Okay, this teacher's not messing around. We're gonna do all our stuff. That's the easy way. If you have some crazy, ridiculous fourth bell like I do, who's crazy every single day because it's the end of the day and they're all wired, you need to constantly back up your words with consequences, and that will eventually catch on. The democratic approach does eventually catch on. You just need to be willing to do it, even if the students choose to learn it the hard way. So just a little bit about me. Before reading this book, I taught with a permissive attitude. I was very respectful to my students, but I was not firm. They basically called my bluff pretty much. I would warn them over and over again, please put your phone away, please put your phone away, please stop talking. Over and over, these second chances, multiple warnings, just like this book warns against. So after reading this book, I made a effort to teach in a more democratic approach. And guess what? My students caught on very, very quickly. All of a sudden, instead of asking them a second time, I would send them right out of the room. I would send them to choice, stuff like that. So the second you start backing up your words with consequences that are fair, logical, and immediate, your students will catch on. They'll pick up very quickly, and the whole atmosphere of the class will change. I promise you. So look, if you are a permissive teacher, that's fine. If you're a punitive teacher, that's fine. To each their own. If your classroom management is tip-top shape, I'm not telling you to change. I'm just telling you what the authors say is the best approach. They say, according to them, the democratic approach is what you need to strive for, but to each their own. So yeah, on the right, this is a picture of the book. I got it off Amazon for like $4. I got it used. You can buy it new for like 13. If any of you guys want to flip through it, just let me know and I can bring it to class. If not, this will be up here until I guess the end of the semester and you can come back and check it out again. But I hope you guys learned something. All right. Bye-bye.